K-pop Demon Hunters is a movie that I saw no shortage of promotion for, whether that was on my timeline or Instagram feed, or even word of mouth from my friends offline. Despite this, it took me about a month to actually watch the movie, and probably a while before this video actually comes out. But no use complaining about things like that. So the short of it is that I watched the movie and I thought it was pretty good for a children's movie, but it also got me thinking. Why do I keep watching and reviewing children's movies? And surprisingly, I think the answer isn't just because I'm burnt out at work and want to watch something relaxing and easy to understand at the end of the day, instead of some cinematic masterpiece where I need to do a literary analysis on the characters and themes just to understand the story. But I think me gravitating towards the medium, and especially these non-traditional children's movies, highlights a broader trend in the children's movie space. And quite frankly, the movies are just pretty good. Like, K-pop Demon Hunters had smooth animation, likable characters that were surprisingly less cringe than I expected them to be, and actually subverted my expectations in a few places. The voice acting was superb, the casting was amazing. Shout out Lee Byung-hun, holy shit, his voice is buttery smooth.
I know you, Gina. In 400 years, you've never done a single thing that didn't serve yourself.
And the art direction and character designs were inspired and good. I thought I came to watch the movie for Huntrix, the main trio, but I stayed for Jinu. Man, I really need to go back to the gym. This guy has literally become my idol. And of course, before I get spit roasted for not mentioning this first, the music in the movie is fantastic. But being a movie literally about K-pop, I kind of expected that. However, I recently read an article, and yes, a real article, instead of just me saying that because I saw a reel and wanted to sound educated at work, that mentioned that the new Disney original Elio suffered the worst box office opening the studio has ever seen, and that the official Pixar TikTok page literally referenced the idea that Disney doesn't make original stories because nobody shows up to theaters to support them in the first place. I know as a Zoomer, it's kind of weird for me to say, I miss the old days of Disney, even though that was like less than 20 years ago. Okay, now that I'm saying it out loud, it is a long time ago, Jesus Christ. But I think a lot of people can echo this sort of sentiment. Disney Pixar used to be the pinnacle of animated children's movies. I actually cared as a kid whether Disney and Pixar released stuff like Toy Story, Cars, or WALL-E. And there was really nothing else to watch back then. Not because other stuff was bad or anything at the time, but because of the sheer chokehold the name Disney and Pixar had on children's cinema at the time. But these days, for a lack of a better phrase, Disney Pixar just has been releasing slop. And from what I can tell, the plot of Elio seems to be a bit uninspired as well. I can't really say generic, since all children's movies low-key tell the same stories, but it's just not a great take on the same ideas and themes. That being said, something like K-pop Demon Hunters isn't breaking the mold either when it comes to what sort of messaging it's trying to tell underneath the glitz and the glamour. It's still a story about fitting in, accepting who you are, creating a future for yourself despite your flaws, and how you can fight against what you think might be predetermined fate. But it does have a few parts of its story that did surprise me. For one, Celine, who is Rumi's adoptive mother of sorts, did not actually play into the normal trope of being the wise parent, actually giving totally unhelpful advice to Rumi the entire movie all the way until the end. Contrary to how parents are usually portrayed in children's films, in something like Kung Fu Panda, Celine actually offered almost zero help to Rumi's mental health due to a lack of understanding of her situation, being half human and half demon. Additionally, the characters in K-pop Demon Hunters are all not necessarily one-dimensional, I would say, but obviously don't go too in-depth with the character struggles, and I think it keeps it in line with the standard. Kind of like Elsa's struggles as a person and fitting in Frozen, or Moana in Moana. Another point I also want to make is that the plot of K-pop Demon Hunters is about as in line with other children's movies as well, at least from the ones I watched in the good old days when I was still a child who didn't really need to worry about anything. The story is incredibly linear. With the trio tasked to save the world via singing, they face adversity, go through some internal struggles themselves, and then end up saving each other by realizing that friendship and kindness is the key. The same old, same old. However, there are also some nitpicks I have with the movie as well. I think K-pop Demon Hunters has a great cast of characters, and I genuinely was interested in the backstories of these characters. Rumi being half demon and half hunter was so interesting, and Jinu's transition into becoming a demon was also so cool as well when I watched it. I wanted to know more about Rumi's parents, their stories, how it came to be. I also wanted to understand the mechanics of the world, where how Jinu looks so human compared to the other demons. Was it because he used to be human, or was it something else? In a way, for a movie where I didn't really want to think and just wanted to watch for fun, I ended up having a lot of questions naturally, just because I was genuinely curious about the characters in the world because of how interested I was. Which to me is actually an incredible feat that a lot of shows these days can't even achieve for a lot of people. Despite this, the questions obviously did not get answered, and to that I was kind of sad. Do I want a sequel to answer these questions? Perhaps, maybe, but the story seems like it ended at a good point, and I think milking this would probably just kill it instantly unless they do it right. But anyhow, the story isn't anything to drive home about. It did what it needed to do, and it did it well enough, in my opinion. But the crazy thing is, I think to even achieve something like that these days is hard. I remember I felt something similar after watching Ultraman Rising, where I felt I can't believe children's Netflix movies are actually being way more creative and interesting than whatever Disney and Pixar are pumping out these days. For Ultraman Rising, I can get behind the angle of nostalgia, since it is literally and essentially retelling slash rebooting slash reusing a classic franchise from many people's childhoods. But K-pop Demon Hunters, to my understanding, is an original concept. And what a concept it is, to be honest. I feel like these days many forms of media that's pumped out from legacy institutions seem out of touch to many. I think a lot of people don't watch Disney Pixar originals, not because the new generation quote-unquote hates the old generation, or they're doing it out of some form of protest. I think that the core target audience of kids don't watch these movies anymore because it's just not relatable. It just doesn't match with their own life experiences growing up in this day and age. Look, I think as a kid, it was kind of cool to see Andy's toys come to life in Toy Story, talking as if they had their own personalities and whatnot. It was cool to see Lightning McQueen race with talking cars and etc. But with the advent of AI and development of technology, everyone can have talking toys with personalities. You don't need to use your imagination because it just exists. They can't use the same playbook of children's movies they used to on Gen Z or the generations before to make children's movies anymore, I think. In general, I think in order for a children's movie to be good, you need to not only be relatable to the child experience of the modern era, but also continue to capture that spark of imagination that makes a kid want to dream and want to believe in something that doesn't exist. I didn't watch Elio, but reading the synopsis, come on. Captured by aliens trying to get back to Earth? Haven't we seen this everywhere already? Also, I think that especially in this day and age, kids grow up a lot faster. TikToks, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, they can show you lifetimes worth of content within 3 hours of doom scrolling. As a kid, you'll learn so much information, consume so much media, and be numb to so many forms of dopamine by dinner, let alone get engaged by a movie about a trope even I've seen at least a few times. But to be fair, I think if you show a brain-rotted, doom-scrolling Gen Alpha kid the original Snow White by Disney, I doubt they would have a good time watching it either. But the success of stuff like the Minecraft movie, and the relative online success of K-pop Demon Hunters so far, goes to show that the magic isn't lost, and you can still do it. Aside from the usual culprits as of why K-pop Demon Hunters did well, like the cinematography, direction, writing, music, animation, etc., I think a great reason as to why it did well globally across all of Netflix and why their songs have topped the charts of Spotify is that it's just a relatable movie for a lot of people these days, and weirdly enough, not just for children. The movie is in tune with experiences of the modern day, whether that be scrolling reels, rotting on the couch, or even going to K-pop concerts and interacting with fandoms. It's a children's movie built for the modern day experience. And I think we're in a world where being a Disney princess or a superhero is probably far less impressive than, say, Kai Cenat or Jason the Ween. And yet when we're watching a TV show or a movie related to those experiences that tries to capture that magic, it's just a cringe imitation of the real thing. I think the take that K-pop Demon Hunters manages to tiptoe around the cool/cringe line is also kind of subjective. I can see the cringe side of it, but it's not overdoing it in my opinion. With the rise of popularity of nonchalantness and being performative, I think a bit of cringe actually gives you a bit of personality, as opposed to whatever the fuck is going on these days. But I digress. I think one of the first thoughts I had while watching the credits roll were this is probably the modern day equivalent of a Disney princess movie. And the more I think about it, the more I kind of get behind that idea. The movie is about K-pop idols. These are idols. And I can guess most people watching will probably never become idols or even get close to that industry. And in that sense, there's an argument to be made that the movie's not relatable. But wasn't the Disney princess the same? Nobody except a select few got to live in grandiose castles, traverse lush forests in the afternoons on their horses, or get kissed by a prince just to wake up. And yet those films were beloved because some aspect of the film felt inspiring and relatable. There was a tangibility in those movies that K-pop Demon Hunters also manages to capture, despite being about a few K-pop stars flying in private jets with magical powers slaying demons. And to an extent, I think Sony and the business side of the movie did a decent job at understanding the market these days. Not to say they did it perfectly, but it was still better than average. Having a K-pop group be the center of the film with so many songs that are actually pretty good, with names I recognize like Audrey Nuna, Ray Ami, Twice, etc., was enough to pique my interest a lot more than something like Elio. Whether we like it or not, entertainment is driven by an algorithm creator economy. People make content about stuff. An algorithm feeds it out, and most people just consume and formulate a worldview based off just that. Things like songs and clips spread fast online, and K-pop Demon Hunters manages to take advantage of that quite well, I think. Overall, K-pop Demon Hunters was honestly a great watch. I like the characters, I like the setting, I like the art. It's a solid 90-minute movie, and the soundtrack is something I still have in my playlist today. I genuinely do hope we get more movies like this, and I do think with the ongoing success of it, we will get more. I think with the times changing, eras are shifting. K-pop Demon Hunters, oddly enough, is a movie I think that is a sign that there's a rebirth in children's cinema. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, whenever that may be. And remember,
see you tonight on everyone's favorite variety show. The Saja boys love you!
My little soda pop.